What if the biggest gamble of your life wasn't in business, but in love? A billionaire, a single mom, and a bet that changes everything. Who really wins? Brian Carter, a rich IT entrepreneur, was never one to shy away from a challenge. Brian, the CEO of one of the top technology businesses in the United States, had amassed enormous wealth and power by the age of 36. Brian looked to have it all: luxury automobiles, enormous residences, and an entourage of people who would do anything for him. However, for Brian, life was a game. It was all about winning, becoming the best, and proving to everyone else that he could. Brian found himself with a group of his pals at a nearby McDonald's on a Saturday afternoon, which was unusual for them. It was a joke, a means to remind themselves that they could fit in with everyday life. Ironically, they were sitting in a booth in the rear, joking and bantering while watching others come and go. Brian, as usual, dominated the conversation, his confident chuckle resounding around the room. Caleb, one of Brian's closest friends who was well aware of his competitive tendency, smirked as he bit into his burger. "You know, Brian, you have everything. You've won over the toughest clientele and enjoyed the high life, but I doubt you could do it again." Brian raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "I'm listening," he said. Caleb leaned closer with a malicious twinkle in his eye. "I'm guessing you can't marry a woman who has nothing to do with our world. And I am not talking about models or actresses. I mean someone truly ordinary, someone who has never experienced the luxury you are accustomed to." Brian chuckled. "Like who?" Caleb casually pointed to Rachel Cooper, who was scrubbing a neighboring table. She was a young woman in her late 20s, with light brown hair pulled back into a basic ponytail. Rachel worked at McDonald's to support her 5-year-old daughter, Lily. Life was difficult, and she was used to dealing with nasty customers while balancing her career and family. "Her," Caleb answered. "I bet you can't win her over and marry her." "That woman? The single mother?" Brian gazed at Rachel with a faint astonishment. He could see her tired eyes and her quiet desire to keep on. She seemed worlds apart from the women he typically dated: high profile, glamorous, and frequently calculating. "You want me to marry her?" Brian asked incredulously. "That's right," Caleb confirmed. "And if you do it, I'll give you $2 million. But there are no contracts or shortcuts. It needs to be a genuine marriage, no trickery." Brian laughed. The $2 million seemed like nothing to him, but the task sparked his interest. Winning came naturally to him. He raised his cup of soda and smiled at Caleb. "All right. Get that check ready, because I'm going to win." Brian's companions laughed, but as he observed Rachel from a distance, he couldn't help but feel a rush of exhilaration. This challenge was different. Winning over Rachel, with her simple existence and calm strength, seemed like a game he had to play. The next day, Brian found himself back at McDonald's. He watched Rachel wipe tables and take orders. She was concentrated, working rapidly, and exuding a resilience that captivated him. Brian decided to make his move once she approached his table to clear the trays. "Rachel, right?" he inquired, with his most endearing smile. She gazed at him with a courteous yet detached expression. "Yes. Could I help you?" "Call me Brian," he stated. "I don't think you've served me before." Rachel gave a casual shrug. "I've been working here for a while. You probably didn't notice." Her voice was flat and she turned to walk away. Brian Carter used to get everything he wanted. But Rachel, she just walked away, a $2 million bet. A woman who wanted nothing to do with his world. How hard could it be? Brian was about to find out. He kept showing up at McDonald's, flashing that charming smile, dropping casual compliments, But Rachel remained unmoved. If anything, she grew more distant. Then she found out. One evening, a coworker named Lisa leaned in while they were wiping tables. "Be careful with that guy, Rachel." Rachel frowned. "What do you mean?" Lisa sighed, lowering her voice. "I overheard something. His friends. One of them said it's a game, that he made a bet to win you over." Rachel's blood ran cold. The next time Brian showed up, she didn't even give him a chance to speak. "You think this is funny?" she snapped, slamming a tray onto the counter. Brian blinked, confused. "Rachel, I know about the bet, Brian. I know you're playing a game. Well, guess what? I'm not a prize." She turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, humiliated, stunned. For the first time in his life, Brian Carter had lost. Days passed. Rachel ignored him. The thought of him made her stomach twist in anger. How dare he? Her life wasn't some rich boy's challenge. But then something happened. Lily got sick. A bad fever. Rachel had no one to call, no money for a babysitter. She nearly cried in frustration as she tried to figure out what to do. And then Brian showed up at her apartment. She opened the door, ready to slam it in his face, until she saw what he was holding. Medicine, a thermometer, and a stuffed bear for Lily. "I know I messed up," Brian said, "but this isn't a game anymore. Let me help." Rachel hesitated. She had every reason to slam the door, but Lily needed help. And Brian, for once, didn't look like a cocky billionaire. He just looked sincere. She let him in. Weeks passed. Brian didn't just show up, he stayed. He took Lily to the park, helped with groceries. He even learned how to cook, badly, but he tried. Slowly, Rachel saw something real in him, something different. And then Caleb returned. One evening, Rachel stepped outside to take out the trash and found Caleb leaning against a sleek black car, smirking. "So, has he told you yet?" "Told me what?" Caleb chuckled. "That he doesn't lose? That he's doing this because he doesn't know how to back down? It started as a bet, Rachel, and Brian Carter never backs down." Her heart clenched. Was this all still just a game? That night, she confronted Brian. "Tell me the truth," she demanded. "Did you really fall for me, or am I just another challenge to win?" Brian ran a hand through his hair, frustration flickering in his eyes. "It started as a bet, yes, but that's not what this is anymore. You and Lily, you changed me. I don't care about the bet. I care about you." Rachel shook her head. "I don't have time for fairy tales, Brian. I have a daughter to think about. I can't afford to be wrong." Brian looked at her for a long moment. Then he did something he never did before. He walked away. Days passed, no calls, no texts. Rachel told herself she should be relieved. Then one morning, she woke up to Lily tugging at her sleeve. "Mommy, look outside." Rachel stepped to the window and gasped. Across the street, Brian stood next to a newly refurbished daycare, not just any daycare, the one Rachel had always wished she could send Lily to. And there, hanging above the entrance, was a sign, "Lily's Place." Rachel stormed outside. "What is this?" Brian turned, his expression earnest. "You once told me you gave up nursing because you had no one to watch Lily. Now you do. No strings attached, no expectations. Just, let me do something right for once." Rachel's heart pounded. No grand speeches, no promises of forever. Just action. And that scared her more than anything. She hesitated, looking at him. "You're serious about this? About us?" Brian met her gaze. "More than anything." Rachel took a deep breath, looking down at Lily, who beamed at the sight of the daycare. She reached for Brian's hand. this is just the beginning. You know that, right?" Brian smiled. I wouldn't have it any other way. But as they stood together, watching Lily run toward her new future, one thought lingered in Rachel's mind. What if love had its own rules? And what if they were just getting started?